Welcome to Revelation Unraveled. I'm your host, William Tapley, also known as the third eagle of the apocalypse and the co-prophet of these end times. Pope Francis released his apostolic exhortation this morning called Amoris Laetitia, or the joy of love. And I glanced through it. I haven't had the time to give you a complete report, but I just thought I would mention some of the things I did notice. And I did not expect a lot because Pope Francis tends to obfuscate the gospel rather than to clarify it. This particular exhortation is 260 pages long. That's longer than Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John put together. Anyway, let me just read one section for you. And in this one, Pope Francis tends to put down one of St. Paul's most important messages, and that is that wives should be subject to their husbands. Pope Francis doesn't think that rule applies anymore, and that's because he does not understand original sin, or perhaps he is perverting the gospel on purpose. Anyway, this is what he writes, and this is on page 115. If you want to look it up, the entire exhortation is now available on the internet. And this is paragraph 156. Every form of sexual submission must be clearly rejected. This includes all improper interpretations of the passage in the letter to the Ephesians, where Paul tells women to be subject to your husbands. Ephesians chapter 5, verse 22. Well, right off the bat, that's not quite accurate because Paul told wives to be submissive to their husbands. A man doesn't have to be a boss over a woman who happens to be his boss, for example. It doesn't apply in that situation. This is a situation between husband and wife. Now, this may just be a poor translation. Maybe that's exactly what Pope Francis did say. I'm not sure. This passage mirrors the cultural categories of the time. That is completely bogus. Paul's instruction is universal. It does not have to do with the constraints of the culture in which he lived. And we know that because previous to St. Paul, Jesus broke the customs of the time regarding men and women. For example, he spoke to the Samaritan woman at the well. His apostles were quite shocked at that. However, Jesus did not make any of his apostles women, and there's a reason for that. Jesus did not wash the feet of women. There's an error that Pope Francis has been committing for at least 3 years, and now he is leading bishops and priests astray. No male clergy should ever wash the feet of women, and this goes back to original sin, which I will explain in just a minute. But our concern is not with its cultural matrix, but with the revealed message that it conveys. Okay, let's go over what the revealed message is that it conveys. The revealed message is, wives should be subject to your husbands. What part of that don't you understand, Pope Francis? He has put out 160 pages obfuscating the gospel, I am afraid. Now, I haven't read the rest of it, so I'm not going to make a final conclusion. I have watched some of the commentators on the internet. They say that the Pope is allowing some forms of contraception. That would be in violation of 2,000 years of church policy and laws. It seems that he is going to allow some priests to make decisions whether divorced and remarried Catholics may receive communion. That is another huge error. And now let me explain about original sin. Now, I've done this before, but I will do it again. Adam and Eve were created by God equal. Let me show you how that works. They were equal, man and woman. Adam says about Eve, at last, flesh of my flesh and bone of my bone. That is equality. What changed that equality? Original sin. Eve was tempted by the serpent. Even though gospel is not clear that she was told by God, she may have heard the word that they should not eat of the tree of knowledge of good and evil only from Adam. The Bible is not too clear on that. But in any case, she was tempted by a supernatural being. She had more excuse to sin. She falls this far. Adam, however, heard the word from God himself. He should have known better. He was tempted by Eve, a human being. He fell farther than Eve. That's where the inequality comes in. So you might say, well, if Eve is morally superior to Adam, why shouldn't she be the head of the household? Why can't women be priests? Why shouldn't a man wash a woman's feet? Well, because neither man nor woman is perfect. In other words, through grace, we can both rise, male and female. But the man must assert his authority over the woman in order to contradict what happened to Adam and Eve. Man must assume authority, which he should have done when Eve tempted him. He should have told Eve, no, we cannot do that, Eve. Eve, even though she is morally superior now to Adam, a woman is morally superior to a man, she must humble herself, which Eve did not do. And she must place herself below Adam. And that will not change, at least until the millennium. Maybe in the millennium that situation will change. I'm not sure about that. But as of now, Paul's warning is true. Wives must submit themselves to their husbands. Now, a man can certainly take advice from the woman. He can certainly recognize that she is morally superior to him, and he should listen to her. But ultimately, the man must make the final decision. And I've explained that before on this program, and if you would like to watch my other programs, or if you would like to know more about my ministry here on YouTube, visit my thirdeaglemedia.com website.